Gear building, the science of understanding, deconstructing, and reconstructing your stats. However, it is not an all-powerful art. It's impossible to create something out of nothing. If one wishes to obtain something, then something of equal value must be given. This is the law of equivalent exchange, the basis of all gear building. The long and short of this guide is going to be wear what you want, even if it looks like this. Gear's there to help you play the game to your strengths, but gear ultimately does have some rules and some quirks that make certain abilities a better fit for you than others. Just an FYI, this guide won't talk much about what abilities are quote-unquote the best, but will help you judge what's the best fit for you. Let's dive in. I'm going to refer to something as AP, or ability points. One main ability is worth 10 AP, one sub-ability is worth 3 AP. This means 3 subs is worth 9 AP compared to 10 AP from a main ability. Because of this, one piece of clothing is worth 19 AP. If you have a shirt with ability doubler, it only gives you 18 AP compared to the 19 from a normal shirt. There's a niche case where ability doubler is technically still worth it if you want 2 subs of a bunch of different abilities, but a main is too much of any one ability for you. Do you like throwing double bomb? Go for it. Lots of ink res so you don't get stuck? Perfect. Swimming super fast? Sure. The first and most important rule of gear abilities is the law of diminishing returns. When you add your first sub of swim speed, you gain a boost to speed. When you add your next, you gain a smaller boost. This boost gets smaller and smaller the more ability points you add. So the difference between 3 mains of an ability and the entire gear full of an ability is actually relatively small. The difference from 0 abilities to 1 sub ability is massive by comparison. If you've ever wondered why pro players have complicated gear builds with lots of different abilities, it's because of this mechanic. It tends to give you more value to use a mix of several different abilities. We tend to call these 1 or 2 off sub-abilities utility subs. The most common utility subs are Ink Resistance, Special Saver, Quick Super Jump, and Sub Resistance. Each of these abilities helps a ton even if it's just 1 sub. For example, let's dive into Special Saver. If you die with your special, normally you come back at 50% charge. 1 sub of Special Saver puts you nearly to 60% instead. 1 main takes you to just above 70%. 2 mains gets you to around 82%, and so on. You can see how that 1 sub ability gave us 10% of our special back, but it took another 2 to get the next 10% and another 3 to get the next 10%. These effects can be very noticeable even in small amounts, so I recommend trying them out and seeing how you like them. It's not too expensive to just slot in 1 chunk. I personally am a huge fan of Special Saver and Ink Resistance, as they help make your mistakes less punishing. Did you know that without any gear, you charge up your super jump for nearly a second and a half? Quick super jump gives you crazy value for just 1 sub, and reduces how long you charge your super jump up by over 20 frames, bringing the charging time down below 1 second. You can see from this graph how this huge effect quickly tapers off, with the first sub saving you 20 frames, and then the next main ability saving you another 20. I'm getting all my stats from Sendo.inc, which is a website put together by the competitive player Sendo, formerly on Team Olive with that SRB2 dude. It's a great hub where you can experiment with your gear builds, see what builds other players are using, find competitive events, and more. I'm not sponsored or anything, the website is just awesome, and especially a good place to see what other players are using for their gear. I personally use it to save some of my favorite outfits and builds to show others and save for later, as well as to see whether a build does exactly what you want. Sendo does a ton of work for the community. You can find him in his iconic outfits at SendoC on Twitter as well. The next law of gear abilities is the law of opportunity cost, or equivalent exchange. You only have so many spots on your gear. How often are those abilities useful to you? Some abilities, like Opening Gambit, only last a short period of time. It's powerful for the first 30 seconds, but is it worth it to play the other 4.5 minutes of a ranked mode without a whole main ability? If you had a main of swim speed the entire game instead, would that have felt better? Maybe the very start of the game is very important to how you play. Always think about why when using abilities that aren't always active. Let's talk about a few of the come-from-behind abilities. I mean, we just talked about how much it sucks to have abilities that don't help you a lot of the time, but that's not a hard and fast rule. If your gear's only useless when you're already winning, isn't that just fine? These abilities aren't risky at all to run, and in fact, work better if you don't play perfectly. First, quick respawn. If you get a kill during a life, QR doesn't make you respawn faster. Sounds kinda lame, right?
Wrong!
We all make mistakes and nobody wins every fight. Wearing some QR means you can quickly hop back into the fray to try again. Only once you start winning your engagements and stabilize does QR actually stop helping you. Comeback only lasts 20 seconds from when you respawn, and it helps your mobility. If you only respawn 2 or 3 times a game, it doesn't help much. But that means you barely died. Chances are you still won. This ability is great for helping you rebound from mistakes and works best on weapons that play aggressively and risky. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Last Ditch Effort. Last Ditch Effort is only active the last 30 seconds of the game, or once the opponent pushes below 50 in a ranked mode against you. If you've ever looked at competitive players' builds, you've probably seen Last Ditch Effort on quite a few builds. If it's active, there's a good chance you're losing, so the ability can help you get back in the game. If Last Ditch Effort isn't active in a ranked mode, there's a good chance you're winning already and don't need it. That's a big reason why players put it on their builds. Importantly, Last Ditch Effort only helps you with your ink efficiency and not swim speed or other parts of your game plan, so despite being so frequently run, it's not universally applicable, and people run it a little bit more than they should. With all these upsides, why not run these abilities? Comeback and LDE are exclusive mains to hats, so you can't run both at once. You only have a limited number of slots for your gear, and how useful these abilities are as a safety net really depends on how you play and your weapon. Is mobility more important to you? Is saving ink more important to you? How much do you respawn? Even abilities that are technically always active aren't always in use. Your ink saver main is only very useful if you use your main weapon a lot, and sub power-up is only good when you use your sub weapon. As a result, the benefits you get from abilities depends on your playstyle as well as your weapon and kit. For example, run speed up is much more useful on weapons that want to stay out of the ink and strafe while shooting, like Splatlings. Run speed doesn't make much sense on weapons like Blaster, which would much rather be swimming between shots because of their end lag. Use your best judgment to see how well your abilities fit your weapon and playstyle, and make decisions that are best for you. This brings me to the final rule, the law of synergy. How useful each ability is extremely dependent on your weapon, kit, and playstyle. Taking Saver Sub. If you're using it to throw bombs while you fight with enemies, your ink is important to conserve and probably worthwhile. But how useful is it to run with beacons? After you place one, chances are you'll just regenerate the ink before you actually run into a player, so the ink you saved doesn't really mean much. Abilities like Tenacity want you to stay alive while your team dies, so this ability isn't for weapons that want to just fight, and also favors those who want to use their special more. Respawn Punisher can help crush enemy special spam, but if you die, you'll never reach your own special. So Respawn Punisher favors weapons that either stay alive a long time, or can get kills without being reliant on their special. As of the latest patch, it also works well with Tacticooler. Play to your own and your weapon's strengths. Think about things you want to be able to do and what situations the gear ability helps you most in. Picking gear to play to your strengths can help a lot, but sometimes your weapon has a glaring weakness or something that telegraphs how you play. For example, Explosher is slower than a snail to move around. Blaster can't paint and gets stuck in the ink frequently. Charger can end up in situations where the only real good option is to jump out. It's incredibly useful to put on gear that makes situations that your weapon is weak in less frequent or less punishing. You can put swim speed on Explosher, ink resistance on Blaster, or quick super jump on Chargers to help your weapon survive these really awkward situations. I personally find Big Bubbler extremely useful on Blaster, as it lets me stay in open areas that I wouldn't be able to hold without it. I even wear a main of Special Charge on my Blaster, which seems a bit weird because Blaster doesn't paint very much. I reached 2800 X power with this weirdo build, so wear whatever gear you feel best with. It's more about how you use it. My main point is that I know why I want each of the abilities that are on my build, and I've tried replacing them with other abilities to see what I like best. Intensify Action makes you shoot straighter and is especially good on blasters, but at some point, shooting straight means nothing if you're stuck in ink, out of range, or dead and not able to take advantage of it. Eventually, by playing around with them, I settled on the abilities I like the best balance of. Ultimately, your gear is there to complement not just your weapon, but its kit and your own playstyle. Think about what your weapon's strengths and weaknesses are, and pick gear accordingly. Then you can tune your gear to fit your comfort, and once you get a feel for it, you can understand what you really want your weapon to do. There are multiple ways to build each weapon even if it looks pretty one-dimensional on the surface. Pretty much anything that's somewhat good can be powerful if you lean into it. Be flexible with your gear, try not to overfocus single strategies with the build. You'll find yourself in a variety of situations during a game, so plan for both the best and worst cases. Just a single sub of most abilities helps a ton, so get out there and experiment. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like or subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm Fusion, thank you for watching.